The Gospel of Zilch and the non-prophet Tim Snavely. That's me. Chapter 23. Nultraverse. Scenario 1. What the fuck were you thinking, Noli? Clearly, I wanted you to help me, not trap me for the rest of my Zilch-forsaken life. In Ensign Null's quarters, we see Noli and Ensign Null begin to have an enlightening conversation on how Ensign Null feels about Maiden Nola. Noli tries to defuse the social bomb he apparently set to explode. Dude, she's a total babe. Why don't you want to marry her? Ensign Null eclectically explained, 1, she's crazy. 2, she's obsessive. 3, I have absolutely zero probability of going my own way if I'm trapped in her clingy and controlling way. And 4, and most importantly, she's crazy. Noli provided his friend with some friendly wisdom. Where I come from, basically all of the chicas are loco. It's all about dealing with their special kinds of crazy and finding which kinds of crazy fits your own the best. So what changed between you saying yes to her marriage proposal and you ghosting her that made you change your mind? Noel answered the question with greater clarity. Not even 5 minutes after I said yes, she had sent me about 30 texts linking to various tuxedos, dresses, costume themes, venues, and decor ideas. There was no way she had the time to find all of those links in 5 minutes. She had to have been planning to send me this hodgepodge of information for months. And I was barely ready enough to agree to deal with her crazy. But then that information overload made me second guess my decision. Ensign Null steadied himself by putting his hands on Noli's shoulders, looking him straight in the eye, and made his final and primary point. There was mas loco, Noli. So much more loco. Noli raised a skeptical eyebrow. Really? Was there anything else that she did that made you come to this conclusion? Ensign Null explained. The rate of text that week compared to earlier was insane. Before I said yes to Maiden Nola, we met up like 2-3 times a week and texted like 30 to 45 messages to each other each day. Normal infatuated dating levels of texting. That number skyrocketed to multiple hours of meeting every day, and she was hanging all over me every day. I counted the number of texts that last day before I threw my phone in the river, just to make sure I wasn't the one going crazy. Guess how many texts she sent me that day? Noli guessed in a deadpan voice. Probably way more than what you sent her. Ensign Null was not amused. Yes, Einstein, no shit. Guess the exact quantity of text I received from Maiden Nola on the 7th day after we got engaged. Noli did a quick Fermi guesstimation. I'll assume your use of the word skyrocket is an exaggeration of 4 times the previous maximum average, 45 times 4, 180 texts. Ensign Null said, I don't like how you just downplayed the sheer quantity of text this woman is capable of producing. 193. Noli continued. Fine, that is a lot of text, Ensign. But is that all the loco she produced for you? Seems to me that she was just loco for you, and that you may have over-exaggerated in the moment by throwing your phone in the river. Ensign Null started questioning himself. It was too much, man. I was smothered so hard I could barely breathe. There was some deep questions in those texts I was nowhere near ready to answer. What should our first kid's name be if it's a boy? If my parents get sick, will you be cool with helping me take care of them? Condoms or no condoms on our wedding night? Alcohol or no alcohol at the reception? Should we make 2 wedding cakes, one regular and another sugar and gluten-free? I realized I can't stand that much of her, and our marriage was doomed to fail if I couldn't. Noli asked, Did you ever tell her how overwhelmed you were feeling? Yes, the ensign vehemently replied. Noli further inquired, In person? Or were you too scared to see how she would react to your raw emotions and only submit your feelings in writing? Ensign Noel paused for a moment, trying to remember if he actually let Maiden Nola know how overwhelmed he felt in person, with a full, somber, and sincere heart. He couldn't recall such a time, and his face showed it. Noli spoke. Seems like you need to work on your communicating your feelings, bud. Give her the courtesy and the chance to listen. I bet if you just give her the freedom to make the wedding how she wants it, she won't bug you as much. And you'll have the time to come up with answers to the questions that are important to you. Ensign Noel changed his mind. I may have goofed, Noli. I think I may have overreacted. Noli encouraged his friend further. Like I said, she's a total knockout. You'd be stupid to let her go. Give what you saw as crazy a bit of time to wear down. She was probably just super excited to be getting married. What girl wouldn't, Ensign? You're kind of a stud yourself. You two would make an iconic first couple wedded outside the Sol system. Elsewhere in the Nether Pies, we see Commander Nola and Maiden Nola exploring the rest of the important parts of the ship. Here will be your tools, your work hub, Maiden, soaps. Here will be your tools and work hub, Maiden. Soaps, sanitizers, bleach, mops, towels, you name it. The crew is going to take turns doing cleanup duty, but now that you're here, we'll delegate that responsibility to you. Yes, Commander. I'll be more than happy to help in whatever way possible. Commander Nola said, It should be pretty self-explanatory. Just follow the instructions on the labels and use the appropriate chemicals for the jobs you work on. If you ever run out of something, you can ask anyone in engineering to help make you some more. And of course, never use these while we are in 0G. They will get everywhere and in everything if you do, and it will become hazardous very quickly. And if you look over here, the two ladies floated the equivalent of about 20 steps down a curving hallway as the commander continued to speak. Here is the cafeteria. It has a sustenance equilibriumizer 20 in it, which will be your chef. I'm sure you already know how it determines the best combinations of healthy and tasty food for you personally. It'll give you a few options so that you can have the luxury of still choosing what you want to eat. Maiden Nola was thrilled. Neat! I saw the 17th edition back in college. I picked up a couple of regular recipes I was shown back then, and I could never get it to taste quite right on my own. Hopefully I can eat some good air-fried eggplant with tomato sauce again. Commander Noel made conversation on the topic. I have seen that as one of my options, and I haven't chosen it before. I'll have to try it next time. The maid said, Oh yes, it's really good. Let me know how you like it when you do. The commander submitted more information about the Nether Pies to the maid. And out these other doors, just next door to the hall, we have a recreation center. We have 4 VR gaming stations and 2 multiplayer board game tables. I usually just stick to books in my quarters for relaxation, but when I'm getting antsy, I sign up to go run in an open fantasy world in a VR station. Maiden Nola extroverted the introvert. That sounds like fun. Maybe we can go running together sometime. Commander Nola said, We will see. Follow me. We're about to wrap up the tour. They left that side of the ship, floating past the cafeteria and the cleaning closet. Commander Nola introduced the personal apartments that existed on this part of the ship. Here are all the living quarters. We have 12 singles and 12 doubles for the crew, and the captain's quarters is a 13th single room, more easily connected to the bridge. Ensign Nola's in a single room right now, but I'm sure you'll want to share a double with him. And we do have a double room available still, so we'll just give you that room in expectation of Noel joining you soon. The maiden calculated. So we could fit 37 people comfortably. The commander clarified. We could actually fit upwards of 70 people comfortably, and 120 safely. There is plenty of space. We would just need to organize better. We have room to grow if the opportunity arises. Maiden Nola asked, Alrighty then. Where do you think would be the best place to hold the wedding for Ensign Knoll and I? The commander answered, Well, all 32 of the crew can fit in the cafeteria, so the reception should probably happen there. But the service itself could either happen there, in the rec room, or the bridge. They're the only big rooms we got. Oh shoot! Time flies when you're having fun. We gotta get to the docking station. Captain's about to give the speech. Outside the ship, we begin to observe Captain Knoll getting ready to give his momentous speech. The camera guy yells out authoritatively, 1 minute till showtime. Captain Knoll asks Dr. Knoll, Do I look okay, Doc? What's the diagnosis? The doc doctored up a response. You look anxious. You should probably take a few deep breaths. The captain eased the doctor's mind. More excited, I'd say. This is what we've been looking for. But I was more referring to anything that looks off, like debris or something. The doctor returned the favor of easing his friend's mind. You look fine, Captain. Nothing to worry about. Captain Knowles said, Thanks. Time to float into position. The camera guy goes, We're live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. The camera guy held up a silent but exaggerated 3, 2, 1 with his hands, giving the captain time to take one final deep breath in silence before engaging with the camera. Citizens of the United Earth and the United Sol System, we have done well to get to this point. Today marks a momentous occasion for the intelligent life forms who have evolved from Earth. Before today, no biological body has survived voyaging beyond the confines of our life-giving star. 2 tragic attempts to reach Proxima Centauri failed due to catastrophically placed objects in mass-electric space-time in the Kuiper Belt. But we are now ready. Our physicists and engineers solved this problem with the brilliant discovery of particles of negative mass. They solved so many problems and helped our beloved and late Count of Monte Cristo achieve the world peace he sought. But this newest invention will help by bringing the mass of the nether pies down to a perfect zero to help us accelerate up to and possibly even beyond light speed, which would make all objects of almost zero consequence. On this voyage, we will not be heading for Proxima Centauri like our beloved Knowles, which have already entered the great nothingness that comes after. Nay, our destination is a remote planet in the Orion sector 642 light-years away, which happens to already be alive from the astute observations of the third Hubble telescope. We're not exactly sure how much faster than light the nether pies will be able to go, nor how accurate the Lorentz factor for time dilation is, but our current estimates range from 99.8% the speed of light to 50 times faster than light. So from our perspective, our crew may experience anywhere between 0.01 to 32 years before we reach our destination. The folding of 3D space into a fourth spatial dimension is also theoretically possible at those ludicrous speeds. We won't really know until we try. We've been unable to get clear results back from robotic ships prior to us on the traversability of the void in such a manner. But there has been some garbled up interference which gives us hope. So we pray and plan to have the aid of human consciousness to the computers of the ship will save this loss of information. Be patient with our response, comrades. It may take a few hundred years for a response to return to your ears. To everyone, be intrepid. Go your own way. Continue in peace. Zilch blesses the Sol System, and Nada blesses the Earth. We will begin accelerating in 8 minutes. Thank you again for your support of this scientific research. And cut, said the camera guy. The doctor affirmed the captain. That was great, Captain. Thanks, Doc. Then Captain Knoll put on a serious and authoritative demeanor. All right, everyone, to your stations. The whole crew sets up and is each excited to be among the fastest Knolls ever to traverse the expanse of space. The nether pie's computer yells over the intercom. Initiating centrifugal force. Please orient yourselves to the sides of the ship. Repeat. Initiating centrifugal force. Please orient yourselves to the sides of the ship. Everyone straps themselves into a seat at their respective stations. Captain Knoll commanded the whole when it was time to go. Begin acceleration. Commander Nola then yells from her commander's chair adjacent to the captain's chair. Lieutenant Knoll, begin calibrating the negative mass chambers and bring the total mass of the ship down to 0, just like we practiced. Captain Knoll declared. So far, so good. Lieutenant Knoll yelled to his leaders. We are going 150 million meters per second. 1/2 light speed. Approaching 0 mass for the nether pies in 3, 2, 1. We have 0 net mass, Captain. On my mark, begin expelling the positive fuel as well to continue accelerating in equilibrium. Ready? Engage. As the crew begins approaching 99% the speed of light, the nether pies run into a rogue asteroid in their path to the Orion sector, and everybody on the ship dies instantly. The result of this outcome would bring evidence that no thing can go faster than light, and the nether pies was simply too much of a thing of somethingness. All the hopes and dreams of the future for these 32 gnolls simply go to nothing. On Earth, hopeful individuals watch the sky to see evidence of the nether pies breaking the lightspeed barrier. Not long after launch, Earth sees evidence of the nether pies exploding and cries in remembrance of the crew. Chapter 24. Nultraverse. Scenario 2. We see Zilch comfort Nada as she cries out from nowhere. Wah! My baby gnolls! Their way ceased too soon. I do not approve of the result of Scenario 1. Do something, Zilch! Zilch tried to comfort his wife. Nada, did you forget that we can see all of the multiverse simultaneously? That was just an unfortunate sequence of the probability wave function. Nada was riled up by this absurd remark. Unfortunate? Darling, this stunt killed them over 90% of the time. 40% were from some rogue asteroid, and 50% from either the negative mass chambers or the positive fuel chamber stalling, causing disastrous disequilibrium at faster than light speed. Zilch saw the metaphorical cup as being infinitely half full. Yeah, but those 10% successes have infinitely many possibilities to them. We can just focus on one of the other universe's sequence of causalities. So they decided to raise the hopes of the little gnolls of the world by showing them a slightly less disastrous universe that happened after launch instead. Captain Knoll declares from this different universe, we have broken the light speed barrier. Everyone on the bridge broke out into cheers, completely unaware of the luck involved in surviving this long. Lieutenant Knoll gave a hearty, yes, all of our hard work paid off. You led us well, Captain. Hey, Nola, dear. How fast are we going now? Ensign Nola replied to her husband. 2.5 times FTL, 3, 4, 5, and holding steady at 5. Captain Knoll spoke. Excellent. Nully, any sign of an observable fourth spatial dimension which we can use to bend our destination a little bit closer to us? Nully responded, Not that I can tell, Captain. The causality field seems to be unperturbed, but space also appears to be relatively normal. We're just moving faster than our electromagnetic sensors are capable of detecting. Commander Nola inquired, does that mean we're flying blind right now? Nully clarified, Not blind per se, it's just a little bit laggy. It is just that by the time we can see where we are going, we're already... Crash! The nether pies jerks back, throwing a couple of unbuckled and unnamed red shirt gnolls violently forward against the interior wall at a relativistic speed of 100 kilometers per hour, instantly killing them. The computer begins yelling out, Red alert. Unknown object collision. Red alert. Unknown object collision. Everyone who is still alive slowly comes to consciousness a couple minutes later, after being knocked out by those high Gs. The captain regains consciousness last, but everyone else is still groggy. He asked, "Engineering, report. What the hell happened?" Noli replied, "Ugh, Captain, I don't feel so good. Zilch damn, I feel ethereal right now." Ensign Noli spoke on behalf of engineering. "Captain, look at the section of the ship Noli is in. It looks discolored." The captain began to observe a definitive line that made about a third of the ship a tinge lighter in color. And not just the ship. The people in that section of the ship looked even more discolored and pale, as if egos had already taken part of their non-existent souls to be with him. Dr. Knoll enters the cockpit from the medical examination room on the lower deck. He immediately rushes to the red shirt Knolls to confirm their status. Equally dead. He then surveyed the rest of the chaos going on around him and said, "Captain, we need to get those pale Knolls to the medical bay ASAP. We need to find out what the hell's going on with them quickly before we lose them too." Commander Nola yelled out, "Computer Knoll, move us to yellow alert." Captain Knoll commands the order. All able bodies grab a pale and unable body and help get them to the medical examination room. Except you, Commander Nola. I want you to look at those sensors and see if you can find out what the hell happened. The commander complied. "Aye, aye, Captain." A few minutes passed while bringing all of the pale Knolls into a medical examination room. There are 12 pale Knolls in total, including Lieutenant Knoll, Maiden Nola, and Noli. Very quickly, Dr. Knoll notices a pattern. "Aren't these Knolls rather light for their size? Noli, you're still relatively conscious. Would you mind if I took your weight?" The feeble Noli stands on top of a scale. Noli looks surprised. 65 kilos? Yesterday I was 82 kilos. Okay, now I'm scared, Doc. What the hell is wrong with me? The doctor looks perplexed. "I'm not sure yet, but here, take some dextrose water. It sure won't hurt. Nurse Nola, if you could help distribute some dextrose water to everyone else in the meantime and get Noli's vital signs, that'd be great." "Yes, doctor," said Nurse Nola. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Commander Nola is looking at the data and comes across the answer to their problems. "Captain, it appears that the nether pie is barely scraped by a small and undetectable black hole from Earth's perspective. We're barely outside the Kuiper Belt now. How is there a black hole so close to us and we never saw it?" Captain Knoll replied, "It seems that Planet X found us before we found it. Under other conditions, I'd be ecstatic. But not a golly gee. If we intersected a black hole, then it's possible that not all of the pale Knoll's particles were able to escape from it. It's a wonder the nether pies is still in one piece. Computer Knoll, run a diagnostic on the weight of the ship." The computer said, "Scanning. The weight of the nether pies is still 0. Equilibrium is still in place. However, the composition of the positive and negative mass are equally 6.66% less than hypothesized. Conclusion. The positive mass distribution in the ship at the point of collision had to be perfectly distributed to maintain equilibrium. Probability of this scenario occurring is estimated to be 0.000000000. "Okay, Computer Knoll, that's enough, thank you," said Captain Knoll. "So we're just super lucky that we didn't disintegrate into smithereens. And even now, we still have 12 crew members who may be dying or bleeding out internally. Commander, try to increase visibility to help prevent something like this from happening again. I'll relay this info to the doctor." Over the next couple of days in this universe, 10 of these pale crew members die due to the unviable destruction of their cells and proteins, including Lieutenant Knoll and Maiden Nola. Noli and an older Knoll make it through and live to tell the tale because of already thickened and coagulated blood filled in the gaps of their endocrine system, while a few viable cells reproduced to replace the damaged cells. Life is adaptable, after all. In this universe, 20 of the crew safely make it to the Orion cluster and settle on an alien planet 8 years after launch. It took them a year to figure out how to accelerate significantly beyond 10 times the speed of light. Time dilation apparently wasn't as pronounced as they hoped, and light apparently does experience some sense of time in Scenario 2. Should I read one more? Yeah, I'll read one more. Chapter 25. Nultiverse. Scenario 3. Nana cries over the fates of the 12 crew members who lost their lives in Scenario 2. Zilch tries to lift her spirit and says, "Cheer up, Nana. Everything happens because of us. Let it happen, and let the Nulls reach us on their predetermined paths. Why aren't you happy that they are already with us in the great nothingness that comes after?" Saying this doesn't cheer Nada up, and she keeps on crying. So Zilch said, "Zilch, Zilch!" and lets the whole crew miss the unforeseeable black hole that was hit in Scenario 2. The crew of the Nether Pies in this universe safely reached the Orion sector quickly, in only 6 months. Because in Scenario 3, Nully was able to figure out how to bend 3D space to their advantage. It's amazing what Nully can do when he isn't physiologically weakened by a black hole. Captain Null affirms his colleague. "Excellent work, Nully. Put together a quick message to send this knowledge back to the Sol system at light speed, just in case we don't make the full trip back. They'll put us, and especially you, in the history books." Commander Nola said, "Now we can go everywhere in the universe almost instantaneously. Do you have any idea how remarkable that is?" Nully just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I just didn't want to be spending the rest of my life on the Nether Pies. Time was wasting. Now that I think of it, I did just discover teleportation, didn't I?" So the Nether Pies begin decelerating as they get closer to the primary alien planet of inquiry. They perform a more complex scan of the planet. The alien planet is 1.4 times the mass of Earth, with a similar air and water distribution, and a nearly harmless level of uranium radiation throughout the planet's surface. It appears to mainly be inhabited by 2 species. One species is similar to Earth's mycelium, and the other was a super-intelligent slime. These species have undergone cooperative evolution for millennia to metabolize the radioactive nutrients from the otherwise sparsely inhabited soil. Captain Null gives the clearance to land the Nether Pies in a barren patch of land a few kilometers away from what appears to be a hub brain for the area's slime species. Commander Noah takes half of the crew out onto the planet to try to make meaningful intellectual contact with the slime, making her the first human to step on a planet outside the Sol system. Captain Null stays on the Nether Pies to do a more in-depth scan of the planet, to search for some other clues for the evolution of life as they currently see it on the planet. We follow Commander Nola with Ensign Nola, Ensign Noel, Noli, and others. Ensign Nola explains, "Ugh, my heart rate is high, and I feel so heavy. Can we evolve back to using all 4s again?" Commander Nola replied, "If we stayed here a couple million years, we probably would. Just consider this a workout for now. We won't stay here too long." The group approaches the extremities of the slime. Upon closer inspection, Ensign Noel makes an excited and snarky comment. "Wow, who knew that the first contact with an intergalactic alien species would be with the equivalence of Einstein's mucus?" Commander Nola proposes, "Ensign Nola, would you like to do the honors?" Ensign Nola appears skittish and deferred her privilege. No thanks. I'd rather not. How about Ensign Null? Commander Nola didn't mind. That's fine if he's fine with it. Are you cool with touching Einstein's mucus, Ensign Null? Ensign Null accepted nonchalantly. Sure. Why not? Nully playfully remarked, Our hero, the Slime Toucher. Oh, please, Commander Nola, can the history books forever call Ensign Null the Slime Toucher? Commander Nola saw a perturbed Ensign Null and dismissed the motion. You're such a child sometimes, Chief Engineer Null. Ensign Null proceeds to touch the slime gently, with careful and mindful intent. The slime sticks to his skin and turns the nearby slime from yellow to green. A bunch of thick-looking cells can be seen through the entirety of the slime. Commander Nola asks, How does it feel, Ensign? Null replied, A bit tingly. It's a slime, though. All right, but it feels more like a firm chia seed pudding. Commander Nola prodded the subject. Could you be more specific on the abnormalities, please? For the report. Ensign Null clarified. The sliminess is merely a medium to connect cells that feel like grains of cooked rice. Jasmine rice-sized cells, sorry. Ensign Nola becomes curious. You're saying it's like a thicker and stickier tapioca pudding? Let me try it out. She touches another adjacent patch, which also turns green, and all the slime between the two touched patches also turn green. Ensign Nola asks, That's a good thing, right? And for the record, it does feel like room temperature jasmine rice infused pudding. Commander Nola skeptically replied, We should probably be prepared to offer it a better food source. That tingliness you are feeling is probably the slime tasting you with slightly acidic saliva rather than shaking your hand to say hello. Cease first contact, ensigns, and help bring out the sustenance equilibriumizer 20 from the ship so we can properly feed it. The color of the slime in the touched areas proceeds to turn into a yellow-green color before returning to a homogeneous yellow again 15 seconds later. Back on the ship, we see the doctor, the captain, and the lieutenant scanning for more complex biological life forms and evidence of intelligently designed structures on the exoplanet. Dr. Null spoke out. There are a lot of giant pyramids here, all artificial and hundreds of thousands of years old. Captain Null ordered, Thank you, Doctor. Keep searching if any of them are still being used by anybody. Lieutenant, switch your scope of scanning to geological and see if you can discover any fossils or archaeological remains. Try and formulate a tenable hypothesis as to exactly which species created these pyramids. Lieutenant Null obeyed his orders. Yes, Captain. And I've got a hunch that this uranium radiation was probably caused by the same species, considering our own historical close calls with the element. Commander Null's crew re-enters the ship, with most of them heading to grab the sustenance equilibriumizer 20, while she relays their findings to the captain. But before the crew could get off the ship again, Lieutenant Null and the doctor triumphantly exclaimed simultaneously, I found something! Captain Null brings order to the ship. One at a time. Doctor, you first. Did you find a more advanced life form than this slime? There is a more diverse ecosystem on an island in the middle of their southern ocean. Thousands of individuals live there, with a diversity of a few dozen animals consisting of species of land and sea. And there is a pyramid on this island that appears to be used by one of the species. The captain started to get excited. Cool. We should proceed there, with caution. Computer, is everyone on the ship? Computer Null called out, Yes, Captain. 32 human Nulls are detected on the Nether Pies. Alrighty, crew, we will proceed closer to that island out of visual range. Make sure they don't have any boat or aircraft technologies that could alert them of our presence beforehand. Lieutenant, what did you discover? Lieutenant Noel confidently relayed his findings. I believe this pyramid building species may have nuked themselves into oblivion approximately 90,000 of our years ago, based on the half-life of uranium. I detected a handful of animal remains which were near the first contact slime's location. The primary species in question have 6 legs, built kind of like a rhinoceros, and huge tusks which probably make work easy. They have also another pair of dexterous mandibles which could possibly do more detailed work. The doctor remarked, now that we're closer to the island, I could see that there are a few similar creatures on the island. I'm only sensing a few dozen of them, though, and they're a bit smaller than a rhinoceros. Less space and resources to go around, so nature selected to shrink their size down a bit, Commander Nola hypothesized. Scenario 3 progresses relatively happily. When the crew initially meets the species who refer to themselves as grogs, they meet the humans with fearful hostilities, injuring one of the redshirt gnolls with a customized bow and arrow which used their tusks as a bow. After communication had been adequately set, the greater grog Nola peacefully invites the humans to learn how they live amongst their last remaining culture, as the Nether Pious crew share their culture as well. These island grogs evolved to reproduce sexually and asexually, which explained their viable low population. They shared that they lost a lot of their ancestors' knowledge, but they knew enough to explain the last days of their planetary empire. The greater Grognola digressed into their history. 60,000 orbits around our star ago, there was a grand war. Grog fought against Grog. It was a tragic era, and there was no real need for it. One nation fought for God, another for the nation itself, and yet another for a radicalized sense of superiority to the other Grogs. It went on for tens of orbits around our star, with no sight of an end for any Groggy. Millions of Grogs died in those early years, and we have ancient footage of that era that you can look at if you like. Anyways, an entire generation of Grogs grew up knowing nothing but war, so their scientists worked hard to bring an end to the Grand War, to finally find some peace in their lives. And they found it all right. The nation with a radicalized sense of superiority discovered the element 92.238 first, made an explosive, and bombed the godly nation's largest pyramid. The whole planet cried for the godly nation and united to fight against the aggressors. But the aggressors were more advanced, so they increased their bombings. First it was 2, then it was 10, and then the aggressors got desperate after things were on their way to unity against them. They launched a tactful 82 bombs, one against every nation that stood against them, to the largest pyramid remaining in each nation. Our ancestors who resided on this island had the foresight to dig deep underneath the pyramid, creating advanced water filtration systems to filter out the tumor-producing element 92.238 that rained down on the whole planet. 10,000 orbits after that, 50,000 orbits around our star ago, our island's ancestors emerged to find that a lot of the island still remained alive, sparsely affected by the radiation. We tried contacting any Groggy who had survived, with no luck. We assume that we are the last of our kind, and have sworn to live a more agronomic lifestyle to pay for our crimes against the planet. I don't think any Groggy has recreated a contact device in hundreds of orbits around our star. There is no point to it. The Netherpice crew thanked the Grogs for their hospitality and left them to their peaceful lives. They informed them of the slime and mycelium that took over the rest of the planet, and reminded them that they are still free to go their own ways and don't have to restrict their ways because of the sins of their species past. The crew then leaves for home safely, but they still find that over 500 years have passed on Earth since they left. Time dilation did happen from Earth's perspective. It was just not as pronounced as they were expecting. That's the end of that chapter. That's all for this episode.